I want to talk about how I think about skills as I've gone through evolutions in my career and how you might consider how to build your skills. Because what I think makes this difficult is all of us, no matter what we do, there's several skills we're trying to build at one time. And when I was becoming a career coach, in this capacity where I was teaching on at that time only job searching, meaning I was knowledgeable about other things, but I was teaching about job searching. I had to figure out how to shoot videos, how to build a community. I had already been blogging, so I sort of had that down, but the mediums were changing, the modalities were changing. I needed to learn how to build products. I needed to learn how to sell them, market them, and so on. And it wasn't like I was trying to shoot to learn all these skills so that I was 100% awesome at every single one of them. And so how do you decide what should you focus on? To what degree should you get good at it? And that's what today's about. And so I've got a series of things I want to talk with you about, some stories, some analogies, probably more conceptual than it is tactical today. But if you're looking for more tactics, I'm actually going to be teaching this more prescriptively on August 23rd in the leadership coaching session that I'm going to be doing on that Friday. So I want to go back to in the Zebra Code and in the leadership skill building methodology that I've outlined for you. I talked about there's kind of 5 layers that if I was 22 and I just walked out of college and I had a blank sheet of paper in front of me and I didn't really know my direction and I wanted to make sure I was building the right skills in the right sequence so that over the course of my illustrious career, I would be able to get the greatest ROI on what I was doing and live the best life and have the greatest career. I talked about at the bottom layer initially, the producer level where it's operating oneself. Really, how do we get focused? How do we become self-aware? How do we become empathetic? How are we organized, productive, and so on and so forth? And so that was kind of the bottom tier. And then there's the communication tier, the one tier up as far as being able to communicate in all mediums for the intent of building relationships, right? Getting along with people. People make the world go round. How do I become beloved? But how do I develop great relationships? How do I network? Those kinds of things. Then as you go up, you go into the influencer tier. That's the communication vehicles to actually move people in a positive direction, inspire them, motivate them, persuade them, sell to them if need be. It's the third tier. And then the fourth tier is the development of people, but really the development of everything, of systems, of people, and how do you actually lead teams all the way on to up to your fifth tier, which is the visionary tier, which is really creating those ideas that move the world. And so that is one way of looking at how to sequence the development of your skills so that you can evolve almost irrespective of what your profession or your vocation is. But I thought about, well, I want to put this another way or two for you so that you could have some perspective around what this means inside of a business. And when I look at businesses, large or small, it really doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter who you are, on the corporate ladder. There's really kind of 3 layers if we could just keep this simple. At the bottom layer, there's the what to do. So from a production perspective, do you know how to either do your step, build the widget, write the paper? It's just the what. And can you do that somewhat in isolation? And then the next tier up, kind of the middle management tier, that's here's how to do it, how to do that. Here's how to do what you're doing. Here's the steps that you should take. I can teach you how to do that. And I understand how it fits in the overall scheme of the world. And then the next tier up is what I would call the systems tier in all facets. The people, the leaders that can build the systems that make everything else operate, or that you can actually systematize something that automatically runs that builds your business. And those people get paid a lot of money. They're the visionaries, they're the leaders, they're the influencers. And that's really how I look at it from a what's happening inside of a company. And if you're wondering, how you go from one to the other, obviously there's levels of experience, but there's also levels of skills as it relates to the zebra code methodology that I talked about. And then I looked at, I think about, well, how does this really align in terms of pay and earning power? And how do as you're going through and you're gaining more experience. So I want to give you a story or two, and then I want to put it in perspective, some different examples from my life, but also then maybe some examples from your life. So I've told this story a time or two. I told this story in, I think, one of the leadership coaching sessions where I was talking about how you negotiate your pay raise and how you need to draw the relationship between the impact you're having and what that means in terms of value. And I think I talked about this story maybe a week or two ago in one of the sessions where I was trying to illustrate something. So if you've heard this story before, I want you to try to listen to this story that I'm about to tell you in terms of what it means to what I just described: the what's, the how's, and the systems. So it was 1999, and the world and the economy were growing rather rapidly. This was the tech bubble that we were about to enter into, the internet bubble, whatever you want to call it. And I took a new job, and I went to this company called Inforte. This is where Kara and I met. And the recruited job that I moved into from where I was at Anderson Consulting to move to Inforte was really this company wanted to reach the next level. They knew they were going to be growing. They weren't really sure how to sell projects to their existing customer base from an account development perspective. They knew they were in need of a lot of infrastructure, a lot of methodology, but they really wanted me to come in and build an account management program. And I got there in my first week on the job. So I started on a Monday. It was Thursday. My boss, Steve, called me into his office. He said, "We need you to head out to Duke Solutions in North Carolina. We've got a project going on there. The project's a bit of a mess. We want to make sure that we can get it in order. Can you hop on a plane and go?" So I did. So I get down there. I talked to these two fellas. It wasn't even the project manager. It was a couple of the analysts, a business analyst, a technology analyst. And they explained to me what was happening, and I could see that we were about to overrun this $250,000 project, probably 20%. We were going to lose maybe $50,000. I didn't really care about the $50,000. I was more concerned about how it was looking to the client. So I take that piece of data back to my office. I figure out what to do. Then I hop on another plane. I go see another project. Then I hop on another plane. I go see another project, as if there were no projects down the street. But I mean, I had to just start flying, and I start visiting these projects, and I realize that we've got people doing the same job function as far as technology solutions, delivery of some type of systems development to our clients, but they weren't speaking the same language. They didn't understand what some of the deliverables really needed to look like, how to run projects. This company was in need of a lot of structure. So I went to my boss and I said, if we keep hiring at this pace, that's bad. If we keep running projects at this pace, that's really bad. And, a 20% overrun on a $250,000 projects, like rounding error, it's no big deal. But when you start adding zeros to these projects, it's going to be costly, not to mention we're not going to have a whole lot of happy clients. So let me build you a methodology so that everybody's using the same tool. So I build a project management methodology, a delivery methodology. I itemize all the different deliverables that are going to go into the projects, everything from the breakdown structures to the requirements to the process flows, all of the stuff we needed, the QA templates, you name it, conversion documentation, and how all this fits together, and then how you actually estimate a project. So I built this over the course of, 6 weeks or so. I did it all on an airplane. I don't think my feet were ever actually on Earth when I was developing this thing. And then April rolls around. I'd started in January, middle of January. April rolls around, and I said, okay, we'll have everybody who runs projects pick a Saturday. I'll come in every Saturday from 8 to 12, and I will teach them how to do this. So just all they need to do is pick a Saturday, come in, and I will educate them. Now, to teach that is one thing. To build that is another thing. And to have the experience to be able to do that for, at this time, what was two different solutions line. There was packaged implementations, there were custom implementations, and we were starting to develop partnerships with 5 or 6 other of the most prominent technology companies and software companies that were developing the hottest products at the time for whatever their function was, whether that was building a website, purchasing, it didn't matter. Whatever it was, we were partnering with them and we were going to learn their product and we were going to implement it and be an integrator for them because there was just a lot of demand. So when you think about the different people who are participating in what I just described, there are the people on the front lines who are doing the lowest level, the documentation, the requirements gathering, the writing up of the requirements documents, implementing it, the development team, the testing teams, those kind of people, analysts basically. They're on the what layer, right? They're on the lowest layer, and they're getting paid somewhere between $75,000 and let's say $90,000, depending on what you're doing. This is at that time, this is 25 years ago. Then you have the project managers who are actually running the projects and responsible for getting all of this in order. And let's say they earn somewhere on the order of $110,000 to $125,000, give or take. Let's exclude bonuses, but let's keep the math simple. Then you have the people who are managing the accounts, the account partners. So I was a player coach at the time. So at that time, I was running some of these projects, but I was also managing the people who were also running some of the accounts as we started to grow. And so let's say those people earn $200,000. So you've got the people that are trying to run the project, they're in the how layer, so to speak. And then you got the people who are trying to run a series of different clients. They're a level above and they're earning basically twice as much money. You've heard me say you're all one skill away from doubling your pay. You're now getting the idea of how this happens. Except the person who developed all of that's being used universally across the entire organization. And this model will grow because this model not only was going to help us deliver more efficiently, was going to get everybody to talk in the same language. That meant everybody that we were hiring at the same time was going to go in through the schooling to understand the rhetoric, the vernacular, exactly what the documentation looked like when we called it this. This is what this meant. Everybody knew what it was so that if you went from one project to another, you now had a universal language. You had a universal way of estimating. We systematized everything and we saved literally millions of dollars compared to what we would have done otherwise if we would have continued on the trajectory that we were on. Okay, that guy gets paid $400,000, right? So that's what I'm earning, but not just because I'm able to do that, but because I'm able to maximize everybody else's performance. So when you talk about the suite of skills that are required in order to do that, you're talking about an array of experience that's being channeled into build a system that then everybody else gets to use to make everybody else more efficient, that makes everybody else grow faster. And then we start tackling new problems because it wasn't just about delivering of consulting services, because a couple months later, my boss, Steve, and the vice president of sales, his name was Frank, I'm in my office one day and my boss's administrative assistant comes to me and she peeks in the door and she says, Andy, do you have a few minutes you could spend with Steve and Frank? They want to talk with you about some things. I said, sure. So I get into the conference room. The two of them are sitting there, and I literally walked in, and the looks on their faces were so dim. And I said, well, goodness, did somebody die? They said, well, maybe us, unless you can help us. We're getting invited to a lot of proposals, and it's taking us a while to actually accurately estimate what these projects are going to take. We're now talking about projects in the millions of dollar range that are going to be occurring over a year or longer. And we're being invited to bid on these projects, except the customers, because everybody is moving so fast at this time, wants these proposals turned around very quickly, and we never want to be slow. So they said, we need you to be able to build some kind of model that would allow us to get the information from the prospective clients and then turn a proposal around within 24 hours. And I want you to imagine the look on my face, because like the level of insanity that I thought this was, because let me get this straight. You want somebody to go in and do some kind of discovery or diagnostic, and then for us to be able to turn around a bid that's accurate to within 10% of the total cost for something that's going to take a year to do, that's got at least 6 zeros on it. And they said, yes, that's what we want. And so I had to, I mean, you know what they say about the mother of all inventions, right? Necessity. So I went back to the drawing board and I said, okay, let me see. Here's my issues. I have people who are managing clients where we're implementing products and technologies that we don't know very well because they're brand new to the market. I need to be able to get them to ask some questions and automate the development of an estimate in 24 hours. So I basically built a tool for 7 different technologies that allowed a monkey could have walked into these meetings. Not that these people were monkeys, but a monkey could walk in and I say, ask this question and you're going to get a numerical answer or you're going to get a high, medium, low, or you're going to gauge this. I just need you to click ask the questions in the sequence I give them to you, click the buttons the way I give them to you. This is an Excel spreadsheet. Just hit the drop down, you select, and then instantaneously, before you leave the meeting, you will actually have an estimated number of workdays. I will give you the blended hour cost for those number of work days, and you will have your magic number right then. So not only can I give it to you in 24 hours, I could give it to you in 1 minute. And then from there, I said, okay, well, what else can I do with this sucker? Well, wouldn't it be great if the project manager got that tool because it was just introduced and somebody gave the project manager an estimate and all the project manager had to do was hit a button, and then we can sequence out all the staffing, when somebody should join the project, and we'll give them a calendar view with a hit of a button of what that project should look like. So you know, imagine the level of efficiency that required no time for people to come up with these answers. And then, of course, we went into auditing and post-auditing and all that other stuff so that I could tune all the numbers. But imagine being able to build something of that level that did that for a company that went from 100 people to 450 within 18 months. Right? Do you see the difference? Okay, so now I want you to look at the array of skills. So when you think about somebody who understands delivery, understands customer service, understands the analytics, understands all the do's, all the don'ts, all the components that need to go into this, can actually understand how to interview somebody, maybe a technologist from a software vendor, to be able to ask the right questions, to understand the units of work, what it takes to do that, and then be able to translate that into something. So you see all these different skills that get stacked together. The fact that you're going to go through your career and you are going to have jobs that are going to require you to learn an array of these things is what's ultimately going to make you the most impactful you can be, have the most enjoyable job because you're doing things that you love and are good at, but also are going to be earning the most. Okay, so what I want to do for you is, as you think about, that was just an example of what I'd been through, but understanding the what, the how, and the systematizing, think about where you are on that kind of that layer within an organization. Because if you look at me as a career coach, so if you transition into how you all know me, when I became a career coach, there were a number of things that I needed to learn. I needed to learn how to put a training product together, except that wasn't even my first problem. I had no idea how to do that, but I also had no idea how to educate the world that this was a business I was going to be running. So there was a community building problem. And then there was a teaching issue because I needed to learn and make sure I had the mechanics of adult teaching and adult learning, and what is that like and how is that different, and what are the mediums that we can use. So then I had to learn the different mediums, whether that was audio, video, written tools, or whatever processes. But then there was the building of the community. That's a skill. Then there's the selling of the product, the marketing of the product, the selling of the product, the servicing of the product, and so on. So when I looked at all of these things, and then let's not even get into all the sub skill sets, because in order for me to build the community, I needed to learn how to shoot a video. And then to what degree do I need to know how to shoot the video? Is what's more important, the content of the video or the artistry of the video? So you are constantly wrestling with which skill should I build and to what degree should I build it? Well, the mistake a lot of people make is they look at something they're doing along the way as the ultimate skill to be built. So if I want to shoot a video, the video to me is not really the final product. It's just a piece of honey, or it's a piece of education, or it's a piece of whatever is going to serve its purpose. It's a piece to help me build a community. It's a piece to help me build trust. It's a piece to help me communicate, and so on. And what a lot of new coaches do of coaching of any kind is they obsess over video development skills. I don't care about that because that's not really my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is not to shoot you a video. My ultimate goal is to teach you things that are going to help you learn how to have a better career, a better life, and transform you. And when you start focusing on working backwards from your end state, you're going to be in a lot better shape, as opposed to getting mired down in these details that don't really matter. You follow what I'm saying, right? There's a lot of different skill sets that you need to build in order to be able to do that. So how did I determine that? So I have to gauge, well, how much time should I spend? And I'm going to tell you how I did that. So now I want you to think about me, and I want you to think about you. Maybe take a few notes here. Just do me a favor. Let me have another sip of that because I'm really thirsty from all the working out I did this morning. Make a list right now of your top 3 or 4 skills, whatever they are. Okay, so like for me, it could have been video development. It could have been building a training tool, or it could be as simple as learning how to teach, learning how to market, and then marketing. I have to copyright. I have to know how to circulate. I have to do those kind of things, right? Or sell. Is the selling interacting with you and selling one-to-one, or is it selling through an email, or is it selling through a video, or at a live event or a webinar or on stage, right? Then it's the delivery of your product. It's the service of your product. So I have all of those. So think about you for a second. Just jot them down, and you try to come up with like 3 or 4 that you know are going to be key. By the way, Andy AI can help you with this if you have access to that. All right, so just think about that. So here's what I did. So the first thing I needed to do was I said, well, I need to start to build my brand. That's a skill. And as part of building my brand, I'm going to do that simultaneously with building a community. How do I do that? Well, in order to build a community, I need to get them to know who I am, but I also need them to get to know who I am in a format where I can continue to communicate with them, which I'm going to do via videos and via email, meaning I'm going to send them emails. I'm going to shoot them videos on my YouTube channel. I'll send them a message with my video in it. A lot of you get these, right, weekly from me on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so I said, all right, this here is incredibly important, highly important to the business, because without having a community of people who trust you, nobody's going to buy anything from you. So it's not like you slap up a web page and say, I'm a career coach, come and buy a resume writing program from me, or come and buy a job searching program from me. You have to interact and build that relationship. So while the value is truly high, the number of stages and steps I'm going to go through to do that is not nearly as consequential as if somebody buys something from me and I can't service it. Does that make sense? So if I'm giving you a free tool, it's a free tool. So the downside from a customer perspective is low. Now, the downside from a marketing perspective might be high. We could argue about that. But my point is, I said, I need to get in motion and be like 50% good at this, meaning I don't need to know everything there is to know about shooting a video. I just need to pop one up. And I don't need to know everything there is to know about templates and this and that. I just need to pop one up. And then I need to see how this works. So up you go. I decide I only need to get so proficient because it's only one piece of the pie. Then while I'm doing this 50% proficient and not spending a whole lot more time, I'm now trying to build a product. So in order to build the product, I spent 6 months. This is insane. I spent 6 months shooting videos to build our first course called the Ultimate Career Course. And they were 5 to 10 minute videos. Some might have been a little longer. Some might have been a little shorter. There was a ton of them because they were short and I had to shoot them. I didn't edit them because I didn't know how to edit. I had to put them in a system. I had to learn how to do that. But I just needed to keep going. So I got only so good at this because I said, I need to get a product. And at that time, because of the way I structured the product, it just took me a very long time to build it. And I didn't spend any time trying to sell it, right? Zero minutes toward the selling skill and some minutes because I was in the doing. Then once I got it done, I had to shift all my time into the selling of it. So the selling of it had different components. There are sales videos, there's sales scripts, there's webinars where I can sell, there's emails where I can sell. So instead of trying to get really great at one medium, I said, I want to start learning all of those mediums. I need to get just 50% good at each one of these. So even if my emails aren't perfect, I just need to get them good enough to put it in front of somebody, because the person who really likes me is going to trust that I know what I'm doing. 50% is good enough. And if I'm going to pitch something at a webinar, 50% is good enough. If I teach really well, that's going to help. So let's focus on the teaching part and being genuine and really spending time with them and answering their questions. Let's get to 50%. Do you see what I mean by this? So what a lot of people do is they obsess, like, I need to get so good at this before I can release it. Who does that, right? I have to get so good at it. Where if you step back and you say, there's so many things I need to get so good at, but I can't get so good at all of them all at once. So what you do is you look at those skills. I don't care if you want to stack them or call it the skill array or whatever it is, but the more conscious of what it is that you need to develop, the easier it will be for you to get, say, 50% good. Because once you get 50% good, you could go, pull the trigger. Right? Get it out there and then go from there. And then what? You know me, I'm an iterator, right? I want the MVP out. It doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be breathing. Get it up, get it going. Let's see what happens. And then you can evaluate. So that's what I do. And so let's say you're you. Here, how about let's do a funny. I know a bunch of you are job seeking, right? Bunch of you job seeking? Because I know a bunch of you just job searchers. Well, do you actually think getting any better at your job is going to help you find a job? How awful is that statement? Like, a lot of you come to me and say, Andy, should I go get this certification? Should I go get that certification? No. Don't spend any time doing that. Because why? Because your ROI isn't going to be better. What would I want to do? I'm a job searcher. I never job searched before, and I'm an awesome engineer. Great. Don't think about your engineering skills. Think about your marketing skills. Think about your resume writing skills. Think about your cover letter / email copywriting skills, right? Of which Coach Andy gives you most of this. Think about your diligence in sending your messages out. Think about, right? So your storytelling skills, your negotiation skills. You got an array of things that you need to work on, none of which are how well you do your job, by the way. Once I built the job search boot camp, the kind of the next iterations, I spent 95% of my time marketing the product. That's you all, I'm on the job seeking example here. Spend 0 time practicing your skills if you're in a job search. Spend 99% of your time on all those other things. And you only need to get 25 to 30 to 40% good at each one of those, get in motion, and then tune. And then when I say, no, we have to bolster your resume, you're going to spend a little more time on that, raise those skills. When I say, hang on, you're getting interviews, we need to work on your storytelling skills, spend more time on that. It's the same kind of thing in your job. If you're a project coordinator of any kind, you have organization skills. That's all I need you to have. It's an administrative and operational function. Okay, now you want to get to be a project manager? We got to work on your analyst skills. You have to understand your subject matter expertise. You need to know what the program is doing, what the system is doing, what the process is doing. You need to work on your facilitation skills because you're going to have to ask questions. You're going to have to facilitate groups to a solution or to requirements or something of that nature, right? You're going to need to improve your planning skills. If you're a seller, you can learn your subject matter expertise of your widget and how it works, or you could learn how to script out your pitch and practice your pitch and get better at your pitch, or you could spend some time learning human behavior and psychology and understanding that there's really only 5 questions you ever need to ask somebody to sell them something, and figure out that and build those skills. How about your organizational skills, so that you know who to contact, when to contact, how far in advance to contact them, how long it takes, your analytical skills, and all of these things that it takes. Or you're a marketer and you want to go through the marketing ranks. Are you working on what? Understanding how the brand works, or are you looking at human behavior and what the problems are and how to market your solution based on understanding of human behavior and what people want? Or are you working on your copywriting skills? Or are you working on your data analytics skills? Or are you working on, so you're stacking all these up together. Now, whatever it is that you do, there will be certain skills that will pay more dividends than others. As an example, how you know me is a coach. Well, if I put out enough good videos and have enough good live shows, and you like what you're learning, I can probably just say to you, this is going to change your life, want to buy it. And my selling skills are not that great, but I sold through building trust and education and demonstration of what you're in for, or how your life might change, or how it might get a heck of a lot easier. Or I might have to then start moving over to having better ways to articulate the value it's going to provide, understanding all the different pain points of all the different kinds of people. Well, I didn't stuff all of that into my sales pitches until I had the data, until I had the examples or the case studies. So I didn't need to be 100% good. I'm still not 100% good. I'll never get there. But you know what I'm saying, right? Do you follow me? Do you start to see that by not understanding what the array of skills is, or the stack is that you need, it's also very difficult to assess where you are in your evolution in terms of which of those skills will pay the biggest dividends to build the soonest. So for me, I was way more interested in building my interactive skills with you and my teaching ability with you. And I placed greater weight on better education and better interaction and more trust building than I did on sales pitches. And until I had this down, I didn't really work on the other stuff too much. I worked on it only to a certain degree, so I had the basics down. Okay, so I just, for purposes of today, I just want you to understand the distinction is that all of you have a series of skills that you need to build. And not all of them are going to give you the same level of ROI. And it isn't just that this particular one gives you a greater ROI versus that one. It's where you are in your evolution. Because right now, I've got the teaching and the trust building down. So I don't spend as much time on that. I only focus on putting good teaching talks together. I spend a lot more time on the presentation, on the circulation, on the marketing, on the sales, because at this stage in my evolution, these pay greater dividends because a lot of the other stuff I've already mastered. It's the same for you when you get into your whatever that skill set is. Those same 5, 6, 10 skills are always going to be present. And then the only other thing is you got to keep your mind on it to know, am I straying away from my good practices? Meaning, am I losing sight of the basics and I'm getting fast and loose and I need to go back to my routines, right? So then it's more of auditing of your skills. And then it's how can I take them to the next level? So I hope that helps. I really wanted to open your eyes to this. And if you like this, on August 23rd in the leadership program, I'm going to be more discreet about how I really would prescribe this kind of skill development. And that particular leadership session is going to be the first leadership session after the entire public will have access to the Zebra Code book. So I wanted to do something career skillsy related. I thought that was good. How do we stack our skills? How do the array of skills affect our earning power? That's going to be the subject on the 23rd. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that today.